Hi, what we're going to do in this video is to build the manufacturing bill of materials for this Lego model, which, if you remember, had got about 33 parts. We built it practically, but now we want to try and build it digitally. So first of all, if we just launch 3D Experience on the web, I'm going to go straight in and build the manufactured item definition, which I've got in one of my favourites, but it's on the south of the compass and you should find it in here. So if we just start that application, and away it goes, and this will actually create a starter PPR or process product resource tree as a new model. I'll start a new session. And here we have the new session started. Let's put our tree in place and pin it in. I think I'm going to pin that in again. Oh, it's a bit flaky. Right, and the first thing to do is to actually change the name of it and give it a name which is relevant to the project. So I'm going to call it my initials followed by CNAM, which is the group I'm working with, Lego. We could put a bit more in there, ice, glider, and OK that. Now, we better check that we're actually in the right collaborative workspace. I've got a lot, you'll only have either that one or that one, and that needs to be set really before we do anything, because as you can see, if I try to change, it won't let me change because I've got a file already open. So I'm going to pop it into this CNAM folder here and just save it, which will save it away. And the first thing to do is to build in this manufactured assembly, which again really needs to be changed the name of. So let's keep some sort of naming convention going here. So PRJ CNAM underscore Lego ice glider. Okay. I don't need to put in what type of file it is, because this sort of broken assembly thing there is actually showing you that it's a manufactured bill of materials. And it starts out by showing us this blank tile. So what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to search for the ice climbers or ice gliders that I've got in there, and I called them new underscore PJ something or other. And if we use our tags here, let's have a look at one of your group areas. So let's go to group B. And there is the ice climber for group B, and if we shut off that collaborative space and choose the A group, we can see I've just given you another one there. So I'm going to actually first of all explore that file and open it up. I haven't set the thumbnails on this, which is why you're seeing a big cube in the middle, but any of the sub-assemblies also show you these cubes. I do need to actually index the thumbnails, and in here we can zoom around and have a look at the structure. That's fine. I'm going to open that in the authoring mode. Just checking that I've got that right. So there we go. That's opened it up in authoring mode, and you can see all of the parts in there have got my naming convention that I've put against them. The part numbering I've used is a bit obscure, but that won't matter too much. So let's close off the Explore window, go back to our manufacturing window, and we're going to need to place a product which I'm going to select and paste from another tab. So if I select this tab and select the top level of the assembly, then that pops itself within this. So you can see a slight difference between the icons here. The assembly icon has got the closed cube, whereas the manufacturing one demonstrates really that it's going to be assembled out of parts. So the first thing to do is to create a product scope, which is that file, and what happens is that the item jumps onto the end tile here. It creates a new name which is looking at the same name as the product that's been associated with it, and a little orange donut appears on there. So what we need to do is to replicate what's happening within this idea here. So in the instructions that we've got, first of all, a set of instructions that put this little man together, and maybe that's where we should start. So let's see what we can do with this. So what we need to do in here is select that first tile and insert a predecessor of a manufacturing assembly into it. And then on that tile we can either select parts from our product structure. So we've got these bits from the Lego sub-assembly here. That's one way of doing it. So I could actually select these bits here, and if I press the Shift and the Control key down, I can drag them onto this tile. And then what happens is the parts that I've actually pushed over onto there actually appear, and they unghost the top level of the assembly. Now what that does is actually put a new tile in there that's given a name here, so we could actually rename that tile to be Lego figure, for instance, because that stage actually hasn't got a stage number. But you can also see that the back end, the instance name of that piece has got a strange name, and it's better excuse me, if we can actually keep a relevant name within the instance name. I'll put a .1 behind it in case a copy is again, it'll become .2. But the reference and the instance also need to be named, and you can see that it actually names it properly there. And inside there we can see the parts that have been associated with it: a torso, and accessories, a legs and a figurehead. But let's have a look at the business intelligence and see what has actually happened in there. So we're looking for the part assignment status, and in our assembly we can see that some of the parts in dark blue have been assigned by indirectly, because I've picked this level of assembly and dragged it in, then that's the bit that's assigned, but these are indirectly assigned from it, and in fact the whole assembly is actually indirectly assigned as well. Now that's one way of doing it, but what I'm going to do is actually get rid of some of those parts. So we'll get rid of those parts and I'll delete them. It doesn't actually delete them from the assembly, of course, but they actually become now not assigned, and obviously they've disappeared from this first tile. Now one of the ways in which we can actually put that together, go back into our authoring mode, and underneath this tool we can see the assembly managing assistant. And if I select this tile, you can see that on this side, this is the, and I can make this bigger, whoops, didn't what I need to do is to pick on these pieces here, and it's rather than going through the assembly trying to find the parts, I can visually see them where they are here. So if I press the control key down, I can select all of these parts, his helmet, his head, his head, the gas tank, and spin it around a little bit, make sure I've got everything. And if we actually just push them across to this slide here, I think what I've left behind is the hips and his arm from the other side there, so I can select those two and put those in. So individually assigned parts are actually put onto this particular manufacturing stage. So I can close that off and we can see that we've got in here. And now what happens is that I've got a few bits missing because the Lego figure itself, there must be something missing from there because there's something not assigned. And I wonder where it is. It's not there. It's not there. Not there. Can't see where that actually is. We'll see, that might be there. No? Maybe that assembly. No. So what hasn't been assigned? Just show me that. No, it seems to be all okay. Must be a bit of a glitch. And in the manufacturing assembly here, you can see now it's actually put in all of the parts, which is perhaps a better way of doing it. And in there we can see, if we just click on that little icon there, we can actually highlight all of the parts that have been consumed by the assembly in the order that they've been put in. That's fine. So let's just minimize that again. And now we'll start to build the other bits of the assembly. So in that tile there, I need to put in a predecessor, a new manufacturing assembly. And let's call this one, let's just change the properties of that and call this one stage 1 or 2. In fact, let's put it as 2 and that'll make sense in a minute. So that's the instance name and that's the main reference name, stage 2. Okay, that. Right. Why have I called it stage 2? Stage 2 because the first stage is this part, finding it and selecting it. The next stage is a bit of an assembly with 2 of these parts on top of that tile. So I'm now going to go back to this environment, and on that tile there, let's look at our assistant, and we're going to select in this tile, you can see these assemblies taking place here. Zoom into this. I want that, and if I press the control key down I can select that, and let's just select the other side as well, which is that one, and actually push those parts in. Close that. We can see now that some of the parts are ghosted out. But what I have noticed is that even though these parts aren't ghosted out, they actually haven't been assigned to any particular manufacturing stage. Sometimes it should be just a graphics issue, I think. But now what I need to do is to put in, so I'm building it from the bottom up, but let's have a look at what happens to this product structure, because now I need to put a new tile in there, which is insert a predecessor, and you can see that it's actually building all these at the same level, and this tile needs to be in front of that one. Yeah. So when it gets to this tile, the assembly moves forward, it brings what's been put at this assembly stage, and we'll now add some more in. So let's have a look at the model here. Stage 3 adds these pieces onto that one. So let's go and try and do that. So here, first of all, we'll change the name of this and call this stage 3. Stage 3, change the instance as well, make that stage 3. It is best practice to actually put a little .1 behind that, but it doesn't really matter too much. But look at what's happened now. In the assembly, you've actually building a structured assembly, so the first stage we put in is lower than stage 3. So on this tile we'll put in some more parts. Let's look at our model again, and I don't know about you, but I can't remember what I was actually trying to achieve, but basically it was that part and that part. We definitely need those in. Let's go back and have a look at our model. We want that little brick and that one there as well, so let's try and find those, probably around the other side. There's the one part, put that into our assembly, and we also need that part there, put that one in, and close that, and we can see what actually builds. So now let me just do another one. You can see from here those bits are the bits that are actually on this stage in the assembly. And we can also see what's actually being assigned, and the colours are changing from those things that are assigned within the assembly. And when it's all assigned, what we hope is that the main assembly there, although it's been green, it's assigned, we should be able to get it to go a different colour, which means that the scope associated with this main product will actually be consumed by the manufacturing bill of materials. So let's just do another one. So here we go in insert a manufactured assembly, again grab this tail of things, put them there. And let's, before we do too much more, let's expand this group, and we can see the parts that have been used in there. We can expand that little group, and you can see the parts that are associated with that. So these parts come into the assembly line, go into that stage to create the first stage, and these are the parts that are actually being associated to the second stage, plus that what was given in the first stage. So let me do a little bit more. I'll shut the video down for us. So I've added another stage in, so I've got stage 4, which has got that black part in there, and stage 3 now has become a sub of stage 4, stage 2 is a sub of stage 3, and so on. And we can do some more verification on the 3D tool here. We can see, if we click on a tile, we can see the parts that are actually being associated with that, which are well, there's no colour associated with that, so let's just switch the colours on, the build colours. So that which being built by that particular stage is yellow, and those things that are about to be or pushed on at another stage are actually orange. So if I look at this stage here, so we can see it's actually not changed some, probably because of the properties I put on the materials there, but that part's certainly gone yellow, that's sort of yellow, and these clear parts are actually yellow, whereas that part there is actually being put on at the next stage. So let's see if the colours actually work. So yeah, as you can see there, all of the things that have been assembled on that tile are actually now gone yellow, and except for those two parts. And this little man here is actually in there because it's a sister of this one. So you'll see exactly the same thing appear there. And if I switch off siblings, that there's no siblings associated with that one, and there's no siblings associated with that. So it's just a matter of the visibility that we have here. So basically you can continue that until you've built all of the stages, and I think in this particular thing there are quite a few. There are actually 25 stages until you get there. Some of the models I haven't done properly, but you know, there's enough in there to actually work with. And the numbering convention I've used of this bill of materials for the engineering bill is 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on, 5s and so on like that. I haven't numbered them relevant to the stage, so really, for instance, that fan shroud, which is probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 16, 24, 25, 26. Perhaps we should call it part 23. But it gets a bit more difficult when you've got a stage like that. There's got 22.1 and 22.2, so the numbering is completely up to you. So see how you get on with that.